So if you therefore take your earlier answer about how complex a game rugby union is, I mean, it is essentially organised chaos within four white lines, and you take the element of human error that, every referee will hold their hands up to, does the TMO therefore create a rod for your own back, whereby we now have the ability to hold a game of chaos to a level of accountability which is almost impossible to obtain, to stand by, and actually shouldn't really be an element of what it is we're watching? Does the TMO make your life easier or harder?
I've varied my answers over this in the last couple of years because I think it makes things easier. Like, I really do. Where we got to get to is we chased perfection with technology. I think we've chased getting every single thing in a game of rugby, from the smallest of net grabs to the smallest of knock-ons. We're trying to be really, really fussy and really perfect. We've now got to a stage, and I hope that that what VAR are going through in football is showing maybe how much progress we've made in rugby. We're not there yet, but we just want our TMOs now moving into Six Nations just to get the big stuff. So where we miss a yellow card for a high tackle, we expect an input. Do we miss small things around the pitch? We have to accept we've got to miss them. Otherwise, the game will be so start-stop.
Do they know this, though, Luke? Sorry to interrupt you. Do they know this? Because some of them definitely don't know that.
And the example would be the Bristol Benetton game. With the final act of the game, Benetton thought they'd scored a winner, only for a sort of a melee to take place between ref and TMO, and everyone was pushing their cause, and suddenly the tries chalked off. Is that a bad example of the TMO, or is that a good example of the TMO?
I'm going to sit on the fence because I didn't see it. We actually watched enough rugby. I watched the Leinster game, and that was about it yesterday. Yeah. And look, I can tell you, for example, Stuart Terridge was my TMO on the weekend down at Sharks here, and I've drilled him quite hard in making sure that if he came,
did you buy him dinner first?
I put him dinner all week. It's the joy of a company credit card, but don't talk about that, I guess. But it's making sure that that Stuart's held accountable to me. When we reviewed the game yesterday morning, he didn't come in for anything, and rightly so. There were moments in that game where we missed things, and he could have come in, but he chose that, no, this isn't appropriate. This game doesn't need this decision. And I think that's where we as refs have to lead it. We have to lead the charge. We have to make sure that we are making sure our TMOs firmly understand they're not going to be thrown under the bus by us on a review if we miss something that's soft. Where I need his help or her help is where we miss a red card and it hasn't been seen by anybody, but it needs to be given because everyone's seeing it and it's huge. It's a huge miss. It's a huge mistake. The tries that we give, that you give and you, oh, brilliant, you scored the try. And then on the first replay, it's clearly not. And everyone's thinking, how on earth are you giving that? That's where we need the TMO's help, not on every small part of the game, which potentially we were at. I'd like to think, and I'm only going to talk about the Premiership here because that's where I'm employed for primarily. This season we got there. We really have made decent progress in terms of our TMO input. We're way down. We don't want to see 5 or 6 TMO input, do we, in a game because it makes it start-stop. But we don't want to see big howling areas anyway. So we've got to try and get, and I've used the word balance a lot this evening, but we've got to try and get that balance right somewhere. People, public, coaches, players, refs, my boss has to accept we're going to make mistakes. And there's some mistakes that could be fixed, but we're happy to make a mistake because it will be nightmare trying to be consistent and perfect. Whereas we want big stuff, make sure we don't miss the big stuff and the big stories. That's where the TMO is there for. That's where technology is for. And hopefully there's progress there, but clearly we're not there yet, as you made a valid point to start with.